we just loved it. We just played together all the time, and then eventually like the band split up. It's like, and I learned guitar because guitar was way easier. I was like, violin? Are you kidding me? And like girls don't like this as much as guitar. You're like,
Was it more natural for you to play the guitar than the violin?
I think that's hard for me to say because I think violin gave me the cheat sheet to the guitar. Because like I was so used to like training my ear, and my fingers were already so used to moving around in that musical way. Like it's like, so it wasn't hard. So it's hard for me to say. I think violin was like the trailblazer.
Yeah.
And it kind of was like, all right, you don't know what you're doing, here you go. But also it trained my ear really well for singing. Like it's a huge help for that. And like basically anything with strings, like I just know how to emote with it. You know, like I've always had fingers under, or guitar, strings under my fingers for so many years. It's almost like it's a very, very natural thing.
Welcome back to the podcast. Today we have a very special guest. This Bay Area native solo indie artist infuses his smooth John Legend style vocals with ethereal guitar sounds in the style of Tom Misch, FKJ, Young the Giant, and Kings of Leon. Using his looper pedal and a wider range of guitar effects, he creates broad, sonic soundscapes drenched in crisp, reverb, and pulsing rhythms. Mixing these sounds together with his uplifting and inspiring lyrical content creates a brand of music that is truly unique. Drawing from 13 years of guitar experience of playing indie rock, R&B, rap, and fingerstyle guitar, he is an artist you don't want to miss. Please welcome to the podcast, Byron Mayhew.
Welcome, Byron.
Hey.
Hey.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah.
Glad to be
Hey,
here.
man. We're glad to have you. You came highly recommended by another Bay Area artist, so we're excited to get to know you.
Shout out to Marisha.
Yeah, shout out. All love. She's one of my favorites too. So feelings very mutual.
Awesome. So we always like to start our podcast with getting to know you, kind of like the beginning, how you grew up. I mean, you don't have to be like, I was born in whatever, but kind of tell us about where you grew up and how that was, and we'll kind of lead the story into how you got to where you're now. But did you grow up here in the Bay Area?
Yeah, Bay Area native, born and raised. Like I kind of grew up in, it's called American Canyon, which is kind of near Vallejo.
Oh, I'm familiar with American Canyon.
I grew up there for a little bit.
Oh,
so,
then it's good. You already know. That's where I've been. Like our house was actually like the first house on the block.
Wow.
Really?
Like, years ago. Like our neighbor's house was just a dirt patch. So we've been we're rooted. We're in here.
Yeah. Wow. You guys are pretty close to Napa, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Like it's only like maybe like 20 minutes, if that. You know, like depending on the traffic though, which is intense. But
yeah, one of my ex-girlfriends lives in American Canyon, so that's how I know I was familiar. I had no idea it even existed until I was like, "What's American Canyon? Where's
Everybody
that?"
knows Vallejo, and then I'm like, American Canyon. They don't know American Canyon. But
it's like it's close enough to like Napa or Vallejo to be like, it depends on which one you want to claim at a particular time. If you want to have a little bit of drip, you're gonna say Vallejo, like yo, Mac Dre, U40, everyone, like all that history is all here, and then or her too, obviously. And then like you be like, if we're gonna bougie areas, like, no, I'm kind of near Napa, the swanky thing, so where you go. I ain't lying.
That's true. You can kind of claim both, right?
yeah.
Like,
707.
Yeah, you can just be like, I just grew up in Vallejo, you know what I mean? So that's awesome. So what was it like growing up in American Canyon?
Oh, honestly, it was really nice, very peaceful. Like it was like I was actually homeschooled at the early part of my life. And like we had like homeschool groups, and like we got to do a bunch of things. But honestly, it was really, really nice. My parents have worked really, really hard. My dad is from the UK, and my mom is from Oakland, and like I don't like, it's a crazy long story how they met, but they made it work.
That's an interesting combination there.
UK to Oakland.
I think all I do know is like my dad went to school in Canada, and his best friend was a traveling pastor. And like they traveled down to Oakland for like it's not a show is the wrong word, but like just like for preaching. And my mom was there at that church, and like they just met like right away. It was like New Year's of like a certain day, and they just fell in love right away. And like they do like long distance and made it work. And yeah, here I am with two younger brothers.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So how long did they do long distance for before your dad came over?
I think he didn't actually move to the US until they got married. And I think they were dating like maybe like 3 years before then.
Wow.
Or something like that. So like I don't remember the exact days. Like, it was before me. I was not even a dot in the I, you know. But that's the story here. So they still have like their letters and things like that. It's really sweet, honestly.
That's
really
awesome.
special.
Yeah.
That's like an
Yeah.
old school romantic story you just don't hear anymore.
Yeah.
You really don't. You really
Yeah.
don't. And like, they're still together, still doing their thing, and they've worked together. And like, over like 2020, like, there's like a lot of life switches, right? And I was like, well, I got to move back to my parents. And like, when I left, I was like, whatever, dude, it's whatever. I was born here. But I think coming back, being an adult, like going out hustling and then coming back, I'm like, wow, look at what they two have built together, you know?
Right.
And it's really amazing. And also, in hindsight, think about as a kid too, like, we weren't always in America. We lived in Vallejo for a while too. And like, seeing how they've elevated slowly but surely, you know, and just like being where they're at now, it's a whole layer of appreciation, which I am so thankful for. Everything I have, it's all very attributed to them, you know.
That's amazing. Your story kind of sounds similar to mine because my father's from Mexico, my mom is from the United States. They didn't have a long distance, but the point of where they always try to do better and move to a better area and have a better life for their family. Like that's kind of like very similar. That's pretty awesome.
Like, family is the big goal. I think that's like big part of like, yeah, this family, like, because like at the end of the line, that's what really, you got to really stick that together. And that's something we've always been raised on. Like my granddad, he immigrated from Jamaica to England, which is another huge switch.
Yeah, it is.
You know, huge, crazy.
Yeah.
And like, because like during like, you know, 1950s, late 40s, right? We always hear about America's always like World War II, we saved the whole world, right? But like, when you're actually in London, like, they were actually getting bombed by the Nazis. Like, they had like things destroyed, you know, like there's still remnants of it, you know. So back in the 40s, they're like, yo, like, we need people to come here, and if you come here, we'll make you a citizen right away. And my granddad was like, well, Jamaica, it's a beautiful place, but there's a lot of crime. It's a very dangerous place, though. And he's like, I want my kids and my future to be so much brighter. And like, basically all he had was just 3 cows. I was just like, well, these are my prized possessions. Like, these are what I love. But like, for my kids and for the future of my family, like, I have to get me and my wife, and we're gonna pop right over there, and we're gonna make it work. And apparently, it was a rough going. You know, there's a lot of things, but in hindsight, though, it's like, has this huge family, and like all of my relatives are doing so much better. No one's in poverty, you know, and like, it never would have happened except if you didn't sell those 3 cows.
Wow.
You know,
that's an interesting story.
Which is amazing. It's amazing. I've like, seriously, it's so, the family root thing, it's very, very tied to it. It's like, it's worth all costs. Like, the idea of people just trading their families for money things, or just, I'm like, dude, that's not what it's about. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like how we're raised. It's like, money things is what, as long as we're together and we're like, we're going to make it work. Hey, let's do it. Let's make it happen, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of,
it went from Jamaica to London or England?
you went to London. Yeah.
London, and then Bay Area.
Yeah. Well, I think my family line. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, my dad. Yeah, exactly. On my dad's side. Yeah. Pretty crazy.
So your grandfather basically sold at the time, what he thought it was his prized possessions, the 3 cows. And that led to a family legacy that lives on all the way to American Canyon in the United States today.
Yeah, exactly. And
That's
like,
awesome.
And I have a bunch of family in England. Almost all of them, like, we're the only Mayhews that are American. Like, it's because of my dad's, like, he loves my mom, you know? So he's like, well, I guess I got to move to America now, you know?
Yeah. That's true love, to uproot yourself and leave everything behind.
Oh, really? Really? It's really amazing, honestly. So I have tons of family there, and like, my granddad and my grandmother they have all these great grandkids they got to meet, you know? My granddad, he just passed away like 2 months ago.
Oh, sorry to hear about that.
It's okay, you know, it's all love. But I think being at the funeral and being able to hear about all the stories and the history of it made me realize the lineage and how deep and how much he led his life with love and purpose and gentleness, and like, leading your life with that. Like, I mean, sure, people will take advantage along the way, but if that is your course, You know what I mean? Like there is something really beautiful if you keep following that through. And I think my both my grandparents are living testaments of that, you know.
That's
so
awesome.
I try to live with that now.
Yeah.
He's
So
a
no matter
legend.
no matter what happened to him, he stayed true to who he was, which was a loving, helping, giving person.
Absolutely. It's all love.
That's awesome. And you know, it's funny. My sister lives in London.
Oh,
Her
really?
and her whole family. Yeah. They were born here, but her husband's from New Zealand. So,
Oh, really?
yeah. So that was like the closest kind of middle point where he could live and work before they got married, because they moved in together before they got married and stuff. So my sister's the opposite. She moved all the way to London, and now they're moving to New Zealand to be with her, the love of her life, and now they're building
Wow.
a family out there. But it's funny because I don't hear no British accent in you. Does your dad have a strong accent?
His accent is so faded. It's ridiculous. I can do
really?
a very good one. I can do like hello, it's Byron here. Like, we can do the whole podcast like this if you want, you know.
Oh,
So-
wow.
I believe that. I can believe that. I have the Jamaican accent, the London accent, the English
It's like,
accent.
I could try. Jamaican, I can't do that for the life of me.
Yeah.
But well, I've heard the British accent on TV all the time, so it's like, how can you get away with it? But like my dad's accent is super faded. Like, it's,
gotcha.
like he sounds like it's a weird accent. He doesn't sound like he's from anywhere in particular. Now it's just like why do you say it like that? Like what do you say? Like some words he refuses to switch out. It's like he still like says Hoover, you know, instead of vacuum, you know, or like the boot instead of the trunk, you know, get petrol instead of gas, you know, little things like that. But
the
like
rubbish.
yeah. So what's all this rubbish?
Yeah.
Like, all right, so bougie. All right. Dad.
I love it.
That's awesome. And you say you had a couple siblings, all boys,
Yeah.
you said?
Yeah, all boys.
Wow.
So I
What was that like growing up with all boys?
honestly, it was pretty chill. It's pretty chill. Like, and also like being like homeschooled too is a lot of time together,
Yeah.
you know, and also I think that's part of the reason that we got really into music, because my middle brother, he's like a rapper, and like he gets to travel and does all these really cool things. Like he just got a spot on G-Eazy's deluxe album like just recently.
Wow.
And like he's much more professional and crazier than me. It's kind of insane. But I think being homeschooled and growing up together, you get to focus on your craft, whatever you're doing. Like you have a certain level of obsession that I don't think you get to have when you're in a different zone. And like also like other homeschoolers that are from that area, like they're involved in that song, and we all kind of still work together in creative things. So it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
So all you guys were homeschooled?
Yeah, like I was homeschooled from like it was like third grade to like 10th grade. I wanted to try high school, you know. I just wanted to be like, all right, let's see how this goes, you know, see if it's hyped up, because I was watching Degrassi and I was like, all right, that seems like a good life, you know. He got shot or whatever, you know. Like, I want to check that out. And but yeah, it was whatever. But like my brother went to it like a little bit sooner, and he did the full thing versus me just kind of be like, oh, whatever. And also community college is free if you're under high school. At least it used to be. Like if you're under high school age, you're able to just go. And so my student loans are super low. Like I'll be able to pay them off soon. So that's a blessing too.
Yeah.
Hey, do what you gotta do.
Yeah.
So homeschooling worked for you?
Yeah, in some ways, I think like it made me like really dig into my craft more. But I think there's certain social cue things that I'm still learning now, you know, that like other people find really natural, that I'm like, all right, I'm learning this now. Like, I don't know, like I feel like I'm kind of catching up on the social bus, you know. And that's why like a couple of years ago I moved to San Francisco, where I was doing a lot more active playing music, and like I was learning social cues there. That was like, shit, I'm a lot older now, but like I'm figuring this out. So it's pros and cons. We had to like look around, and I had to find different homeschool groups, because there's not just alone in like just at the house all the time, which is like which a lot of like there's homeschoolers that do that, and I've met them, and like, but like we had a homeschool group. We just kind of went and did a bunch of fun stuff together. Like we used to go snowboarding, we used to go hunting. I know how to crab, like I know how to shoot, you know, like we played music all the time. And like, we just love to travel, do a bunch of new food. We all know how to cook, you know. It's like, you get to learn more about like other things versus just like being like, well, this is the high school track. You know what I mean?
The strict education, system they put you into that probably doesn't even really work that probably works more in the real world, what you guys learned and what you guys did, than algebra and Pythagorean theorem and showing up and this kind of stuff. And these kids have never traveled, never done anything. They're just kind of stuck in school all the time.
Exactly. It's a trade-off. You know what I mean? But like those kids know how to do social things a little bit sharper at it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they also have to deal with a wide range of like characters and personalities. Because I think to be like in a homeschool group, it's a very certain demographic that are going to homeschool. Like I think it's like a privilege in a way, because we were around like other kids that had a lot more money that were homeschooling, because you can't just do that. That's why they have kids in public schools in the first place,
Yeah.
So
because parents are working.
Yeah, exactly. So that was interesting. I think that's part of the reason moving to San Francisco later was so encouraging. I was like, oh my God, like look at all these different lifestyles and all these different personalities. And also it was a good realization. Was like, dude, not everyone's gonna like you, okay? Like that's and also that's
like all my homeschool buddies love me.
Yeah, like what's the deal, right? But like you eventually we figured. I was like, okay, all right. And then I guess that's a social cue that you learn in the other way. But yeah, I learned a little bit later. But honestly, it's been good. I think again, like tracing back to like that through line of just if having good intentions and being as pure as you can. There's people that are going to knock you off, like there are going to be a couple distractions here and there. But if you kind of stay in that through line, people will be attracted to that,
Right.
And like those are the connections that matter. And I've met some of the most wonderful, beautiful people, including Marisha.
How'd you meet her?
Like we played a show, back in San Francisco days. I got asked about it. I was like, sure. And it was a good time. And just like when I first started and just, we like connected right away, and her voice is so amazing. And later on she just hit me up. It's like, hey, like could you play guitar for this, and could you help me with this, and you play this show for me? I was like, absolutely, like whatever you want, because I think like you can get a vibe off people. It'd be like, yo, like there's like a smell or something, I don't know, when people are bad and like when people are good. And like Marisha is so fantastic and so pure and such a wonderful soul. So I was like, yeah, so we just connected right away, and I've been playing guitar with her a lot more often, but not recently because life. But I love her a lot.
She gives the best hugs ever. She when she hugs me, she squeezes me with so much love every single time. I love her.
And it's so pure.
Yeah,
she's awesome. So I just want to ask a question. So you mentioned social cues. Can you mention some other social cues or things that you kind of didn't understand, and when you started getting out of the homeschooling environment? What were some things that that you kind of were like surprised, or some culture shocks, anything like that?
I think it sounds silly. I think man, there's so many. But I think the one that comes to mind right away is it's realizing that there's a lot of different ways to live life, and I was like, and understanding and respecting that, and knowing when boundaries are set and knowing when they're not. Because for me, I'm used to very direct. I'm a very I'm like, yo, what's good, what's not cool, all right. But out in the world, it's not like that at all. It's we're like, yeah, maybe, sure. For me, I'm like, what do you mean? Yes or no? There's only two options.
Right.
I didn't learn maybe in homeschool. What's wrong with you?
What's up here, man? So I think that's one thing I've been learning. And also again, meeting new friends along the way. It's like, hey, yo, that's what that means. And if it's they're kind of dating too, dude, I've had so much trouble with that. Oh my God, that's hard enough. But that's a whole other thing of babies. I don't know. I'm like, whatever, man.
At least you know what you want. It's
exactly.
Either yes or no. What is a maybe?
I mean, you seem like you have a great personality, a great energy. You're very happy, very positive. You know what I mean?
Hey.
Which is stuff that sometimes the public school will make you not like that, because of all the stuff that happens during the public school, like bullying or, just you have to fit in and like, you try to be somebody you're not.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Why were you guys homeschooled? Was it just something the parents thought that it was better, or it just kind of happened that way? Do you know?
Yeah, it was because like the schooling district where like we were at, like it's some of the worst in the whole state. Like there's like Jesse Bethel and Hogan. We could either go there or we could go to Napa, where people would be like, yo, like black people, like if you're a person of color in Napa, like in certain schools, like it's bad. Like they'll treat you pretty bad. Like we've definitely tried it. And then and so they're like, we're not gonna send our kids to Napa and we're not gonna go to Jesse Bethel, where it's like it's a really negative space where people are fighting, and like that was like a regular thing. It's like, oh, it's like 5 o'clock. That's what,
5
basically,
o'clock.
Like,
you're like, what's going on? No fights today.
I was like, oh, what's going on?
Yeah.
So it's like they're like, no, we don't want our kids to do that, and also they're thinking like we want to give them the most tools that they possibly can have, and like that we're willing to provide, because again, it's that family basis. It's like our family is everything, so we want to invest as much as we can into that so they can go off and do so much. So that's kind of like the main reason. And also my mom loves teaching, so it's like
why not just teach my kids,
Is she a teacher, or she just loves to teach?
She used to she was like part of like my earlier introduction into like music stuff. She used to be like a choir director at our old church way back in the day, and like she used to direct musicals and things like that. So she loved having art around, and she loved to like teach it, and like everything that she could teach she would, and if not, she'd like, well, let's figure it out, and then we kind of got to explore. I mean, like again with the homeschooling thing, we got to, it's like, hey, I've never been, there's elephant seal, for example. Elephant seals that are like down south. Like, I don't even know what elephant seal even looks like. Like, what does that look like? Let's go and check it out. You know what I mean? And like, we just pack up the car and we just go,
Yeah.
Oh, have you ever been to Año Nuevo? Like a little bit south? Beautiful. Like hundreds, thousands of elephant seals at a certain time of year. And it's beautiful.
Where is this at?
Año Nuevo. Okay.
Yeah. Año Nuevo. I don't remember the exact area. I just know it's called Año Nuevo, like national park, and just see.
What state?
Oh, it's here in California.
Oh, in California.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, that's awesome. That to me, that's the best form of education. Go experience it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Instead of just reading in a book or something.
Absolutely. Like if we could, if we could, we would, and like my mom loves learning and exploring and figure things out herself, so it's kind of like a feedback thing, and like she always like really loved that part,
That's awesome. So was your dad the one working and your mom was taking care of the kids?
Yeah, like my dad was working. He's an engineer doing his thing, and you're just like, hey, I just want my kids to do your thing, and like he's like, hey, my wife's got it, I'm gonna do this, and when I come home, we're gonna like, I'll go to all the games, we're gonna do all the things that we can while I'm here, and like then I'll go do the thing. So it's like a little trade-off,
He had the perfect career at that time too, because I'm sure engineering in this area was always had a good job and bringing some good money. That's awesome.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So when did the music start? Because you said you guys were always doing music young, so it must have started pretty early.
Oh yeah, like I think as far as music was always around, because again, my mom was always directing plays and stuff ever since we were like kids or whatever. But I didn't really like play an instrument until later. Like later on my like again, like looking for new opportunities for us to try, new extracurriculars, because again, part of homeschooling thing is keep your kids as busy as you can, right?
Yeah.
So we got thrown into violin lessons when we were 7 years old, and like me and my younger brother, my baby brother wasn't born yet because we're 10 years younger, so he's 10 years apart. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Was he planned, or was he kind of like a whoa?
I think it was like a whoa, but but also a blessing, of course.
What's that like to have a younger brother 10 years younger than both of you guys?
Oh, geez, it's pretty different. I think like there's like such a huge difference. Of like, yo, you can't go to the parties with us, you can't go to the concerts with us. So like we're trying to figure that out. But I think over 2020, one of like the greatest events of me coming back and living with my parents again is like I got to like really like meet him and understand him a lot better. And like I think I'm really starting to get that, because me and my middle brother, like we're 2 years apart. So like we used to do Like we go all the time. We were always jumping all over the place doing music stuff, you know. But it's a different thing for him. But I mean, I played violin for like back to violin. It's like I played violin for like 8 years, like 7 to 15. I loved. We played in a couple orchestras, and it was really really fun. I loved it. And then eventually, like my friends were like, "Yo, dude, like we're gonna start like a rock band." And I was like, "All right." You know, I was like, "I don't know how to play guitar," and it's like, "That's okay, just play violin." You know, because do you ever hear about Yellow Card, like the pop punk band?
Yellow Card.
I've heard of them, but I've heard of one of their songs.
Oh yeah, dude. Well, I mean, the only thing to know is like they have a violin as like their lead thing. So they're basically a Yellow Card cover band. Like when we were like, jeez, I was like maybe 14 or something, and we just loved it. We just played together all the time, and then eventually like the band split up. It's like, and I learned guitar because guitar was way easier. I was like, violin? Are you kidding me? And like girls don't like this as much as guitar. You're like,
was it more natural for you to play the guitar than the violin?
I think that's hard for me to say because I think violin gave me the cheat sheet to the guitar because like I was so used to like training my ear and my fingers were already so used to moving around in that musical way. Like it's like, so it wasn't hard. So it's hard for me to say. I think violin was like the trailblazer.
Yeah.
And it's kind of was like, all right, you don't know what you're doing. Here you go. But also it trained my ear really well for singing. Like it's a huge help for that. And like basically anything with strings, like I just know how to emote with it. You know, like I've always had fingers under or guitar. Wow. Strings under my fingers for so many years. It's almost like it's a very, very natural thing for me.
Yeah. It was programmed probably subconsciously. How old were you when you started the violin again?
I was 7.
7. Okay, wow. That's when your subconscious was formed. But yeah, like you said, I mean, violin's basically like a little guitar that you're playing like this with the thing. You know what I mean?
More or less, yeah.
Yeah. It's like a mini little guitar.
Absolutely. Like that's part of the reason what got me into it. It's like for a while, because like I had to take like the bow out. I had to put like your rosin on it to make it like have a grip and whatever. And like, and I was like, I don't want to do all that. And also tuning a violin is like it's not as easy as just turning the pegs. You got to pull them out a little bit and adjust them like to get it. And I was like, that's way too much work, right? Yeah. I was like, a guitar, you just turn the pegs. So easy. And like sometimes I just grab the violin, just like pluck it just like that. And I was like, I could do that, but bigger and plug it to an amp. And I was like, this is just kind of connecting all these like little lines together. Yeah. You know? So like, I know I got really into that. And I played saxophone for a little bit too. Very random, but like my parents love the saxophone. And I was like, sure, I'll learn it. But I only got to play for like 9 months or so. And then like I got like a really bad headache, like a bad reaction to it.
Wow.
And like the doctor was like, yo, like you can't be doing that. Like you should.
Really?
You had to, yeah. It was
what was
weird
it about it.
So like when I was 12, I had like a really gnarly like brain disease thing. It's called encephalitis.
Oh my gosh.
It's like where your brain swells. And I had like meningitis at the same time as where like your spinal fluid swell. It was pretty gnarly.
Yeah,
so I couldn't really.
Gnarly.
Oh, it was crazy. It erased chunks of my memory too. So there's whole like years of my life I just don't remember. Like it's just like just pictures and what I wrote down. Like I'm like, oh, wow. Cool. That's all I got. So,
you're like, that must have been fun.
Yeah, it was so great. So great. But like that would kind of what got me into music a lot too, was because I was like, I couldn't go out and do stuff. So I was like, I'll just do that. And I tried to play the saxophone because I was like, all right, cool. Like I was so into music at that time. That really got me started in it. Like really made me fall in love with it more. I think from like 7 to like that time, it was like just something fun to do. And I loved playing in like orchestras and like, but then when I was like sick, I made me realize, oh dude, like music it's a lifeline. It's a really beautiful thing that's like kind of designed for when things are tough, you know?
Right.
So I kind of explored a little bit more and I was like, all right, I'm going to learn the saxophone. But then it infuriated it and gave me really bad headaches for like days after. And I was like, yeah.
Crazy.
So I'm like, the way it sounds.
Maybe? Oh, it's like more like the air pressure it required to do it, you know, and like it can cause like a lot of like pressure up here if you're not doing it right. And like I was learning, so obviously I wasn't doing it right the whole time, you know. So I think like learning a new instrument that requires that much like probably wasn't a good idea. So it kind of got me more into the guitar range, and then and I kind of played that for years, even after I got better, you know, well from the sickness or whatever, and then I got into drums too, because like my dad was a drummer way back in the day. So it's just kind of, I just really love it. I love the drums, but like my old drum set is now a bed for a bunch of plants now. So when I came back from moving out, I was like, wait, where did my drum set go? I was like, well, about that.
That's hilarious.
It's growing some tomatoes and some herbs right now. So I'll play drums when I can. You know?
There you go.
Wow.
So you said when you moved back, where did you move to?
I moved back from San Francisco. Like I lived there for like 2 years.
Okay.
Something like that.
Gotcha.
Like I went there for college, and like that was honestly some of the best years of my life. Actually, they were the best years of my life. I'm not gonna say some. It was just literally just going out and just exploring. Again, what I was saying about like the homeschool group and the homeschool people, like it's a very certain demographic that people like to operate within, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So like going to San Francisco where that little bubble doesn't exist, it's literally everything.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I can try this, I can go here, you know? So that was incredibly liberating, and it really encouraged a lot of songwriting and creativity and just like meeting new friends. And it was beautiful. Like I went there for school. I just graduated like over the pandemic. It's done.
Congratulations.
Congrats.
Yeah.
Thank you. It was so hard at the end. Oh my God. But yeah, so I went there for school originally, but I just did the minimal amount of school and just played music as much as I possibly could.
That's
and
a smart ratio right there.
honestly, yeah, like it worked. Because like honestly, college is just a game, you know, like you just got to learn the gift of gab. And if you play, and the thing is like, it sounds bad, but if you play music, certain doors open, certain people are more like, hey, like
100%.
it's fine. Like for like one of them, I was a TA for one of my sociology classes, and she was like, for one of the presentations, she was like, yo, you gotta do a presentation talking about this social issue or whatever. And I was like, just the night before, I was like, all right, cool, but I released a single last week, so let me just figure out how to do this. So I like did my presentation, I like real short. And for like the other half, I was like, all right, well, actually, I have a new single coming out, and I can play some songs for the class. And like,
Did you get to do it?
And she's like, A+. Yeah.
Oh yeah,
that's
dude, it was
awesome.
good. Like, and like, yeah, like I got an A in that class, A in TA, and it worked out. Like, honestly, just certain doors open. It also was a good reminder of like being aligned with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like, I think being super studious and like being really, really into that all the time, like music is my natural state. You know,
Right.
I think after like that time when I was younger, it kind of fused me and music together in a way. So I was like, I just kept on doing that, and there's a really beautiful reminder of that. And like, because people want to see people that are aligned with themselves, because like
Absolutely.
it's a beautiful thing to see.
100%.
Yeah, it is. You attract it. You also, it's contagious too. People
Yes.
see you doing that, I'm like, I want to do that too, or do what I want to do. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Do you have any advice for people who are homeschooling right now during the pandemic?
Ooh, geez. Well, I think for homeschoolers, I'd say find your hobby and really like dig into it and like explore it and like try like different avenues that you've never done before, you know. And also feel free to grab the phone and call people. Like, people love that, you know. And I think like that's part of like the social cue thing where I'm like, when is it okay to call? Like, because like I have to be the initiator, but like, you know, again, like I'd say that, and also go out and get as much sun as you can, you know, and like,
Agreed.
you know, like, and exercise, and like also cherish the people that are there and appreciate like everything, you know. I guess that's beyond homeschooling, I suppose, but I think that ties.
In a way, we've all kind of been stuck in homeschool because of 2020.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
This, I was like, when it happened, I was like, dude, this feels so familiar.
It's
You're
normal.
like, I've been here before.
Quarantine. I quarantined myself already.
Yeah.
So.
I know, I've been knowing this, you know, like I feel like I was kind of prepared for it the whole
You're
time.
like,
Yeah,
let's
yeah,
go.
for sure.
Let's do it. I'm used to this, right?
Yeah.
Let's go. Yeah.
I like what you said about living in your purpose or being in alignment, because that's really what this podcast is about. And I appreciate having you on, because we want people that are actually living their purpose, that are following their dreams, or doing what they love, because very few people in this world are actually doing that.
Mm-hmm.
They say 87% of people don't like what they do, and 10% of people hate what they do. So that means only 3% of people are actually doing what they love and in alignment. So we want to inspire people by listening to stories like yours and other people that are actually doing it, and them to say, man, if he could do it, I could do it too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that's amazing, man.
Yeah, it's like part of like sharing your story. You know what I mean? Everyone has a story, and it's powerful, and it's healing at the same time for you and for people to hear as well. You know?
Yeah, dude. Thank you for having me. Letting me be able to share this stuff because I appreciate it. I'm like, I never talk about it. You know, like,
Yeah.
geez, homeschool days, like, oh, way back.
And we never even knew that about you. You know what I mean? Until you share it. So thank you for doing that.
Oh, want to keep it 100. You know, if you keep it 100, then you're in nothing wrong. And I think like the music thing, and I don't know, I've been trying to do it day by day. I think I've just been exploring a lot recently. Like, I think that's one of the biggest things is like, again, like just being locked in the house. I'm like, what do I do? And I just got that looper pedal literally at the very beginning of 2020. I just learned how to do it. Originally, I was just doing like this electric guitar and singing, you know, and then getting a looper, and I was expanding. And then recently I've been visiting a bunch of different producers. I've been like trying to like this, like a new ambient sound with this one guy. Then I'm making like this rock stuff with another guy. Cause like I used to be in like a rock band when I was like in my 20s, and like it was super fun. Very, very business, but it was really, really fun.
So what would you say your style is today?
I think right now I would just say like smooth ambient guitar right now. Like, okay. I think that's like, but I love making different beats and things because I love that indie rock, like that Young the Giant, that Kings of Leon, that young, like that reverb, like crazy delay sound. Like I'm in love with it. So I've been doing that. I guess I'd call it that.
I love Kings of Leon too. They're an amazing band. Like we were talking about this earlier, but for the longest time I thought they were from Europe. Yeah. Just because of their style, you know what I mean? Their style, their sound. And so you're saying they're from Nashville.
Yeah, they're from Nashville, Tennessee. Like they were adopted by the UK first. Like I feel like UK has like a leg up when it comes to rock music. Like that's just like we're Led Zeppelin, you know, the Beatles, you know what I mean? Like they know their rock. Like America, we got it. We're kind of slow on the trigger, so that's why sometimes if you're a great rock band, you got to go. Like the Killers, like they're from Las Vegas. You know, they have a very British rock sound too, and like
100%.
And no one cared about them here until, you know, then they went over there. And then Mr. Brightside, like literally if you play it anywhere in like they were just classic. Like they lose their minds. And like honestly, if you're playing it right now, I lose my mind. It's one of those songs.
Thank you for tuning in. That was the end of part 1. Part 2 comes out next Monday, 9 a.m. Please stay tuned.
Make sure you like and subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell so that YouTube will let you know when the next one comes out.